Hey, beautiful people, all praises to the Most High. So, we are going to be explaining that calling on the ancestors is forbidden, and that King Saul was punished for visiting a witch to bring up Samuel's spirit. And we're going to get through it, and we're going to just go into the Most High's commandment where he says it many of times. So we're in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. What does he say he is? I am the Lord your God, he tells you. All right, so we are going to go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26 and to 27. All right, and it says, "And ye shall be holy unto me, for I am holy, and have served you for other people, that you should be mine. A man also or a woman that has a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them." So do you hear that? A man also or a woman that has a familiar spirit, they have demons and evil spirits working for them. They bring up spirits, they do divination, and is a wizard, they shall surely be put to death. And as in Exodus 22 and 18, which I've went through many times with you, God says, I suffer not a witch to live. All right? So we understand that God is against. We're in Leviticus 20 and 5 to 6, okay? All right? Then will I set my face against that man and cut off his family, and will cut off and all that go whoring after him to commit whoredom with the people, with Moloch from among their people. And the soul that turns after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. The reason why I read 5 and 6 is because, do you see Moloch is an idol? And God is telling you they're familiar spirits. And the soul that turns after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, people who bring up these people, to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your God, am holy. And you shall keep my statutes and do them, and I am the Lord which sanctifies you. Did God give you religion? No. He gave you his word, and what did he tell you? You shall keep my statutes. When you keep God's statutes, he'll sanctify you, and you will know him. Are you keeping his statutes? Do you know the Most High God? Have you done anything to do that? So let's keep going. Remember, he tells you there shall not be found among you a witch, and anyone who now we're gonna go to the book of Chronicles. All right. Yeah, let me just get quick to the Chronicles here, you guys. Give me a second. Quickly get to the book of Chronicles. Okay, sorry, Kings. We're in the first book of Chronicles. We're going to chapter 10, verse 13. Okay? All right. So Saul died for his transgressions, which he committed against the Lord, even against the word of the Lord, which he kept not, and also for asking counsel of one that had a familiar spirit to inquire of it, and inquired not of the Lord. Therefore he slew him, and turned the kingdom unto David the son of Jesse. Do you understand what just happened here? It's very important for you to understand what happened here. He called up a spirit. He went to a witch, a wizard, to bring up Samuel's spirit. Do you see what God did? He said, I will cut off the man. He didn't keep God's word. And also for asking counsel of one that had a familiar spirit to inquire of it, and inquired not of the Lord. Therefore he slew him and turned the kingdom unto David, the son of Jesse. Remember, the Most High can take a kingdom from you and give it to who he pleases, right? He can it's easy for the Most High to make a poor man rich. He did that to David. Did you not see? Yeah, and now we're gonna go to the book of Chronicles. We're gonna go to the second book of Chronicles, chapter 33, verse 6. Let me just get to it. So remember King Manasseh? He did a lot of witchcraft, had idols, and did a lot. All right. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. And also he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft and dealt with a familiar spirit and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. You understand? Obviously, he provoked the Most High God to anger, because he tells us in Deuteronomy 18 and 9, and I'm going to get it to you for you right now. I'm just going to read it. What does the Most High say? There shall not be found among you any that makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times. Those are witches and wizards. Those are psychics and things that people go, or an enchanter, people who work witchcraft, who set spells and things. Remember, God says, suffer not a witch to live. A witch is just somebody who practices witchcraft, spells, wickedness, cursing, all right? So there shall not be found among you any that makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits. I remember a very long time ago in the beginning, I told you about charming words and people who flatter with their tongue, right? Or a consulter with familiar spirits. What does it mean to be a consulter with familiar spirits? That means you talk to them, you engage with them. People who have demons and evil spirits. And evil, they work with the kingdom of marine, they work with the kingdom of darkness, they work with Satan, they work with his agents, they work with evil spirits, they work with demons, or a wizard, or a necromancer. What is a necromancer? That's someone who brings up the dead, calls up spirits. But people do that. Now, what does God say? For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Have I not been telling you that God's angry with people who do witchcraft, and it's an abomination? And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God does drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. For all these nations which thou shalt possess hearken unto observers of times, and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God has not suffered thee to do so to do. Why has not God suffered thee to do that? Because God, you can fast and pray and God can speak to you. You can fast and pray and God can give you a vision. You can fast and pray and God will reveal things to you. All right? You don't need to consult with a witch, a psychic, or anything. Now, that brings me to the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, verse 19. Because Isaiah made it clear for you people not to be all up in this witching and all this craziness. Why don't you fast and ask God? Now, chapter 8, verse 19. Okay. Oh, wow. Sorry. Why did I do that? Going all the way to Ecclesiastes. Sorry, guys. Chapter 8. No. Chapter 8, verse 19. Oh, it's not going here. Sorry. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God? for the living to the dead. So we know God is not the God of the dead. God is the God of the living. So you could speak to your God at any time. They're calling on the ancestors. They're calling on the dead. God is not the God of the dead. He is the God of the living. So that brings me to Mark. So that brings me into the New Testament. Now I'll start with Matthew. I'll go to Matthew. Actually, I'll start with Matthew 22 and 32. 22 and 32. Let me just get through it. All right. I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. Do you understand this? He's the God of the living. And remember, the Egyptians worshipped out of the book of the dead. There's a reason why God said he's the God of the living, because people worshipped out of the book of the dead. Now in Samuel's the first book of Samuel's, chapter 15 verse 23, for rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected thee from being king. That's what Samuel said to Saul. What? Because Saul rejected the word of the Lord? He did, because he went to consult with familiar spirits, and God told him not to. Now, in the book of Kings, the second book of Kings, chapter 21, verse 6, and he made his sons pass through the fire and observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. So when people are doing these things, what are they doing? For sure, you know they're provoking the Most High God to anger. You better believe they're provoking the Most High God to anger. And that's why I plead with you people, don't do witchcraft, because you'll get cut off from among your people. As you know, God is against that. You deny the power of the Lord. All right? Now, I just want to go to Isaiah 31 and 3 quickly. And it's probably going to go to part 2. Now, the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horse is flesh and not spirit. Remember, God is a spirit, so those who worship him have to worship him in spirit and truth. Why does he say that? Because the Egyptians worship of the book of the dead, and God made sure to tell you he's the God of the living. Now, the Egyptians are men, so you guys shouldn't be calling yourself, I'm a god, and all that stuff, and the goddesses and all that nonsense that they do. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horse is flesh and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helps shall fall, and he that is hoping shall fall down, and they all shall fall together. So you better trust in God and not call on no ancestors, because you're calling on evil spirits. You're not supposed to be calling on the dead. All right? That's very important to know. And there's other scriptures that I need to get into, but I'm going to make a part 2.